Thanksgiving at the Thompson household was always a spectacle, a feast filled with laughter, aromas, and familial warmth. This year, as I stepped inside, the comforting sense of roasted turkey and pumpkin pie enveloped me, blending seamlessly with the cheerful chatter and clinking of silverware. Yet beneath that welcoming surface, a palpable tension hovered in the air, and I could feel it wrapping around me like an unwelcome shroud. "Look who finally decided to join us," my mother, Cynthia, remarked dryly, her carefully styled hair bouncing slightly as she turned to face me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, and the disapproval was unmistakable. She wore a perfectly tailored blouse with a Thanksgiving brooch sparkling at her collar, its brightness contrasting sharply with the dimness of her expression as she scrutinized my navy blue uniform. I had enlisted, joined the Navy, and yet standing here among my family, I couldn't help but feel like an intruder in my own home. The dining room was immaculately decorated, as always. Fresh autumn leaves adorned the table, and the flickering candlelight created an inviting glow. Family laughter rang through the air, echoing like a distant reminder of the acceptance I craved, but so desperately lacked. I felt the weight of my Aunt Diane's gaze from across the table, sharp and judgmental as she surveyed me with thinly veiled contempt. "Why the Navy? Isn't that a bit unconventional for you, dear?" she teased, her smile a facade for her true intentions. I forced a smile, my heart racing in defiance of her scorn. "I'm proud of my decision. I just finished boot camp," I replied, hoping my words would quell the whispers of doubt swirling around me, but their eyes gleamed with skepticism. As my cousins regaled the family with tales of their academic successes, honors students, scholarship recipients, climbing the corporate ladder, I stood by, silent. Lucas and Sarah were the golden children of the Thompson dynasty, celebrated for everything that the family held dear, traditional pathways and conventional achievements. I was there, yet somehow I was not. The conversations felt like electric currents dancing around me, leaving me in the shadows, a mere spectator on this grand stage. What did it matter that I had excelled in boot camp, that I had topped the physical fitness scores and received the Navy's Future Leaders Award? In their eyes, I was little more than a girl playing soldier, someone who didn't belong. In their eyes, I was an outsider, but I wear the Navy's colors proudly. I echoed the thought in my mind like a mantra, summoning strength in what felt like a never-ending wave of derision. With every toast made to accomplishments I felt unworthy of sharing, every round of applause given to my cousins, my heart sank further into my chest. The warmth of the dinner was eclipsed by the chill of dismissal. I had always been methodical, observant, aware of how I stacked up against the expectations set before me. Each bite I took felt heavier, laden with the weight of my family's judgment, as their laughter resonated with a mocking tone. "Who's taking care of you now that you've chosen such a dangerous path?" my mother pressed, her voice cutting through the jovial conversations around us. My heart tightened at her words, painting my service in shades of peril while simultaneously dismissing the pride and honor I felt. "You know the Navy isn't just for anyone. You might not have what it takes," she continued, her hurtful remarks shrouded by feigned concern. I inhaled deeply, drawing from the well of resilience I had built over the years. I locked eyes with my mother, suppressing the urge to snap back. Anger swirled within me, fighting against the tide of composure I had been trained to maintain. Her stance sprang from fear, the typical fear of a mother wanting her daughter to have a safe life. I clenched my jaw, forcing my grip on the fork to steady myself. "Mom, this is what I want," I stated, my voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of frustration. The room fell briefly silent, the collective chatter halting as my words hung in the air, tense and charged. I could feel the eyes of others on me, my cousin's confusion mixing with my mother's disappointment, and Aunt Diane's condescension felt like a knife twisting into my resolve. Then, in another attempt to divert the conversation, I deflected the stares and shifted my focus back to the turkey dinner. A feast they seemed to relish, yet I felt as if I was on the outside looking in. The laughter rang hollow. I was not part of that joviality. Instead, I leaned further into my silence, digesting not just the food, but the harsh realities of familial expectations and societal pressures. Every clink of cutlery punctured my heart. I had dreamed of this moment, envisioned a warm embrace from my family, perhaps even a proclamation of pride for my service. Instead, I was met with murmurings and exchanges that highlighted my differences, my choice, a choice that had cost me the sense of belonging I longed for, a choice that had distanced me from the very people I hoped would cheer for me. As dessert was served and plates were rearranged, I mentally prepared myself for the upcoming holidays, each step through the minefield of judgment only reinforcing my newfound strength. I could hear the laughter of my family, but amid their joy, I solidified my resolve. I would not allow their skepticism to dim the light of my aspirations. I was still Mia Thompson, Navy recruit, determined to show them exactly where I belonged, even if that meant traversing this holiday tide alone. So, in that room filled with warmth and laughter, I decided not to shatter. Instead, I would endure, silently promising myself to rise above their limited visions. I would become the embodiment of my own triumph, and perhaps, one day, they would see me as I truly was, rather than what they wanted me to be. My journey was just beginning, and I would wear the Navy's colors with pride, no matter the distance that seemed to stretch between me and my family. Now, let's proceed to Block 2, Background and Family History. Growing up in the Thompson household was a turbulent blend of love and expectation, a complicated tapestry woven from laughter, warmth, and unyielding pressure. My earliest memories are painted with the soft glow of my mother's smile, the vibrant decorations she painstakingly arranged for holidays and gatherings. Yet, alongside those sweet moments were threads of tension, an unrelenting pressure to fit into a mold established by tradition and family pride. The roots of my dreams intertwined with the rigid expectations that bore down on me like a summer storm threatening to drown out the sun. From the moment I took my first steps, a path was laid out for me: education, stability, a proper career. My mother, Cynthia, was the embodiment of traditional values, a staunch believer in security and conventionalism, and her dreams for me were firmly planted within the parameters of what she deemed acceptable. It started innocently enough when I expressed my childhood aspirations of joining the Navy. "Mom, I want to be a sailor," I exclaimed one day, my eyes sparkling with excitement. I can still recall the moment. The vibrant colors of my dream collided with the drab palette of skepticism that enveloped her response. "Girls don't belong in the military," she had said, her rejection slicing through my youthful hopes with surprising sharpness. Each time I shared my ambitions, the laughter that should have echoed back turned into honed daggers that threatened to pierce the very fabric of my being. The dismissive chuckles from my family, especially from Aunt Diane, became a regular soundtrack in my life. My heart sank each time I would overhear her conversations with relatives, replaying the same old refrain that followed her everywhere. Joining the Navy is unrealistic for Mia. She should focus on something more appropriate for a girl. With every utterance of skepticism about my aspirations, the seed of doubt burrowed deeper into my consciousness. As I grew, so too did my dreams. I dove deeper into my studies and sports, training tirelessly in hopes of proving my critics wrong. I needed an escape from what felt like an insurmountable burden, discovering my passion for fitness as a way to channel my frustrations. Every afternoon, I would lace up my sneakers and hit the pavement, pushing past exhaustion time and time again. Running became my refuge. Lifting weights turned into both therapy and empowerment. I started to excel in physical fitness, becoming the fastest runner and strongest athlete in my grade. The gym became my sanctuary, a place where the only opinions that mattered were my own, and the achievements I noted on the scoreboard. And yet, with every success, there lingered a weight of inadequacy strapped to my heart. After all, it didn't matter how many trophies I earned if they still saw me through skeptical lenses. All I wanted was a chance to be recognized, to be celebrated for who I aspired to be, rather than dismissed as an outsider. Each family gathering felt suffocating, filled with probing questions that saw me as an anomaly rather than a member of the clan. "What are your college plans?" they would ask, and each inquiry cut right through my attempts to assert my identity as a future Navy officer. In those moments, I found solace in my workouts, training my body and mind for the ambitions I refused to let go. I could hear my mother's voice woven into the very fabric of my being. "You need to make responsible choices, not reckless ones. Those words haunted me, and I began to build an armor against them. That armor became my training, my physical readiness, my ticket to the future I wanted desperately to pursue. When the day finally arrived that I enlisted in the Navy, I stood in front of that recruitment station, my heart pounding but filled with a sense of purpose like never before. It was a pivotal moment that felt as real as the uniform I was donning for the first time. On that day, I felt a tide of belonging wash over me, regardless of the worry gnawing at the edges of my excitement. Would my family accept my path? What would they say when they found out? Inside, I rooted deep within myself, telling myself that this journey was my choice, and that one day I would make them understand. Even as I excelled through boot camp, pushing past the limits I once thought were insurmountable, the shadows of doubt from my family would return to haunt me. Their voices reverberated through my thoughts. "You'll never fit in," my mother would say, her lingering words a dire reminder of the structure of my upbringing. "You're risking too much for what might be a fleeting dream." Yet, every day I donned that navy blue uniform, I felt more alive than I had ever felt. I could see my fellow recruits wielding the same determination, fighting through the sweat and fear, and for the first time, I belonged among my tribe. It became a lesson in resilience. My fellow recruits and mentors embraced my passion, and it cemented my belief that I could defy the low expectations lingering above me. They taught me that the Navy isn't merely about bearing arms and navigation, it's about brotherhood, courage, and integrity. We shared tales of both victories and defeats, forging bonds through courage and vulnerability. Their encouragement transformed the flickering light of determination inside me into a bright flame that conflicted powerfully with my family's disbelief. Returning home during holiday breaks was challenging. I would brace myself each visit, steeling my heart against comments about my unconventional lifestyle. Each inevitable inquiry about college plans reinforced my feelings of alienation, fueling the flames of discomfort. Would they ever see how my choice brought me joy and purpose? I learned to stay calm, offering vague answers even as my heart raced. I could see the disappointment flicker across their faces like an unwelcome shadow cast during a bright summer afternoon, a familiar flash of rejection that almost knocked the wind out of me. I often sat across from them at the dinner table, surrounded by the accumulated warmth of family tradition, battling internal conflicts, while they shared stories of my cousin's academic achievements. They would laugh and boast about achievements that now formed their identities, and I sat there struggling to find my voice among the chatter. Every story they spun left me yearning to assert my presence, but I could feel my voice getting tangled in uncertainty, drowned out by the jubilance that filled the room. In those moments, remnants of affection I had hoped to feel evaporated into the air, leaving behind a haunting reminder of this perpetual solitude. Each time I jogged past thoughts of their judgments, I felt as if I were running against an invisible wall. Even as I grew stronger and empowered, the fear of not being accepted lingered just beyond my periphery. I could hear faint echoes of, "You don't belong here," as I grappled with a family that worked tirelessly to cement their views within me, reinforcing an identity that felt at odds with what I desired. I had long since grown accustomed to the silence that enveloped me during family gatherings, a silence that swelled quietly at the edges of conversations, awaiting the right moment to unleash the potent combination of frustration and longing. Yet there persisted a flicker of hope, a whispered insistence that change might come. Every success in the Navy brought a rush of pride that reverberated against the clarion cry of their disbelief. I was still Mia Thompson, a Navy recruit, relentlessly pursuing my dream. With each deployment, every exhausting drill, I was forging my path. Woven into the fabric of that uniform was not only the weight of heritage I carried, the labor of past generations, but my commitment to break free from the confines that no longer served me. As the years passed and the holidays rolled around, I prepared myself to face the judgments that awaited me. I resolved that I would regain my voice, a voice ready to assert my place in this world, no longer bound by the constraints of judgment. And so, Thanksgiving approached once more, and I steeled myself for another family dinner brimming with expectations and unsaid critiques. But this time was different. I would approach the table knowing that my journey was worth it, and whenever I faced my family, I would be armored in the pride of my Navy experience. I resolved that I wouldn't seek their approval, but rather allow my own experiences and achievements to pave the way for a new understanding, one where I could embrace the Navy's colors with pride unapologetically. Now, let's proceed to Block 3, the breaking point. Thanksgiving had a knack for distilling the essence of familial relationships into moments of both clarity and frustration. The air crackled with tension. An invisible web spun tight between shared memories and unspoken judgments as I stepped back into my family home this year. I had prepared for this gathering with the mindset of a soldier gearing up for battle, knowing that each interaction could lead to an ambush of well-meaning critiques masked as concern. The familiar scent of roasted turkey mingled with the laughter of my cousins, their chatter echoing in the spacious dining room adorned with fall decorations. My mother's culinary talents were on full display. Bountiful dishes lined the table, each one meticulously crafted with love and care. Just beyond the threshold of their warmth, I felt a coolness, a space that seemed to stretch between me and the very family I longed to connect with. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence," Aunt Diane chirped, her voice draped in the same saccharine condescension that had become my annual crucible. "Mia, still chasing after that little Navy little dream of yours?" I tried to mask the sting of her words, offering a tight-lipped smile as I entered the room. "It's not little, Aunt Diane," I replied, the words falling just short of firm but packing a hidden punch. "The Navy means everything to me." They continued to chatter and tease about my lack of a normal career path, their laughter ringing hollow, but I was armed with the growing confidence that had built up over time, a shield to protect my heart from their skepticism. Yet, the old patterns were hard to break. I felt uncomfortable in my own skin as I settled into the familiar roles they had assigned me, the dutiful niece, the misunderstood rebel. As dinner progressed, I knew that the topic of my Navy service would be brought to the forefront, the gathering conducive to probing questions about deployment and training. I had mentally prepared for the grand inquiry, but nothing could have steeled me for the gut punch that arrived instead. Between bites of mashed potatoes and overtly cheerful exchanges about life updates, my father raised his voice above the din. "So, tell us, Mia, what's it like playing soldier?" The jest lingered palpably in the air, laden with condescension. I felt a wave of warmth flood my cheeks. A surge of emotions wrestled in the recesses of my being. In that moment, every inch of validation I had fought for collided with an avalanche of my father's disbelief. I could sense the eyes of my family shift towards me, measuring my response. Their amusement was a stark reminder of the divide, as if my authenticity was nothing more than fodder for entertainment. "Dad, it's not playing soldier. It's a calling," I responded, my voice maintaining composure despite the maelstrom churning inside me. "It's about honor, integrity, and service." "Oh, come now, Mia," he dismissed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Real careers don't involve wearing costumes and pretending to be heroes. You know what you need to do. Get a real job, settle down, and be respectable." The moment hung in the air, suffocating, the walls closing in as the blood drained from my face. The laughter around the table felt like nails scraping against the chalkboard of my soul. Faced with the jarring contrasts of their expectations and my mission, I could feel a cocktail of anger, disappointment, and hurt swirling inside me. I had put in countless hours, blood, sweat, and tears to embrace this identity. And yet there I was, the punchline of a joke merely due to my life choices. I could hear my heart racing, thundering in my ears as I wrestled internally. "Enough!" The words surged forth, unfiltered and raw, as if propelled by the strength of my Navy training. Their laughter faltered, and the room fell silent, eyes widening in surprise as I initiated my breaking point. My fingers instinctively curled into fists, a response wired through years of training. A silent declaration that I wouldn't be a doormat for their derision any longer. "I've dedicated years to this path," I continued, my voice gaining momentum, no longer hesitant but filled with conviction. "The Navy is not just a job, it's my life. I have earned my place. I lead others who are willing to sacrifice everything for our country. There's honor wrapped in every part of what I do. You might see it as a hobby or a phase, but I've invested everything into serving my country. I would wish for you to understand the weight of that choice, to respect it." The stunned silence hung over the table like a heavy fog, the weight of my admissions settling around us. I locked eyes with my father, hoping to penetrate the barriers he had so effortlessly constructed. For the first time, I found myself shaky but unfaltering in my stance, eyes aflame with a quiet intensity. The weight of my experiences surged within me, intertwining with a desire to tear down their expectations piece by piece. Finally, my mother spoke. "Mia, don't, Mom," I interjected, maintaining the fire that flared inside me. "I deserve to be heard. I deserve your respect. I've earned it through hard work and sacrifice, not just for my ambitions, but for the promise of betterment that this opportunity entails. I've fought through physical and mental challenges. Your vision of what success means is not mine." My voice cracked, trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the truth of it all rising to the surface. A wave of discomfort rippled through the room, punctuated only by the hesitant clinking of utensils. My heart raced, and my breath deepened. The Navy is not just what I wear on my sleeve, it's part of who I am. It taught me resilience, commitment, and the power of belief. I've learned to navigate seas far more turbulent than any family gathering. I wish you could see me the way I've grown, rather than through the narrow lens of what you expect from me. In that moment, the tide began to shift. My father's expression grew tight, those familiar lines of disapproval etched deeper on his brow. The usual mocking demeanor evaporated, replaced by something unrecognizable that hovered just beneath the surface. "I just want you to be safe, Mia. All of this, it's dangerous." "The real danger is not pursuing my dreams," I shot back, heart racing with conviction. "The true risk is living a life undone by fear of judgment." My proclamation hung like a battle standard raised high, a challenge placed before them that was both vulnerable and formidable. There, in that oversized dining room decorated with fall foliage, I felt the power of my voice rising in crescendo, trembling yet resolute. I looked around the table as more silence enveloped us, feeling the gravity of what had just transpired, the raw honesty spilling forth. Their reactions varied. I caught glimpses of surprise, disbelief, and perhaps begrudging admiration flickering across the faces of my cousins. My mother looked on, conflicted, balancing between pride for her daughter and fear of the unknown. Aunt Diane's smile faded, her eyes darting between me and my father, perhaps sensing the fault line that had just been exposed. For the first time, I felt as if the bubble of their assumptions cracked ever so slightly, offering a glimpse of my truth. My resolve radiated through the air like a beacon, illuminating the path for what lay ahead. The silence shifted, transitioning from judgment to contemplation, from mockery to respect. "I won't shrink back on my ambitions to fit your narrative." My words reverberated with newfound certainty, and as they washed over me, I felt a sense of liberation. My family had seen the struggles, but they had often turned a blind eye to the strength that grew from those challenges. I was facing down the tide of expectations and affirming my place on the battlefield of family dynamics, and I would hold my ground. As the evening wore on, the conversations transitioned to quieter tones, a soft murmur that echoed with newfound respect, perhaps a seed of understanding planted in the cracks of their carefully structured beliefs. I continued to breathe deeply, reflecting on the moment, preparing for whatever may come next. Thanksgiving would never look the same again, nor would I ever look back. Embracing my identity as a Navy recruit, I found solace in knowing I had finally asserted my truth, embracing the colors I wore with pride. Whatever lay ahead, I would stand tall and unyielding, determined to pave the way for acceptance, both from my family and, ultimately, from myself. Now, let's proceed to Block 4, Signs of Revelation. As the evening continued unfolding, I found myself caught between an undercurrent of nervous energy and an exhilarating sense of empowerment, pulsing through our familial gathering like a new heartbeat. The air held a magic that seemed to infuse every conversation with possibility, and while uncertainty still hung heavily above us, there existed a defining moment that shifted our shared atmosphere towards something unexpectedly hopeful. The dining room, once steeped in skepticism, now resonated with genuine connections as the fervor of the early evening slowly transitioned from hollow laughter to heartfelt exchanges. I could practically feel the layers of tension peeling away, an unsettling familiarity replaced by sparks of admiration and curiosity. Distant echoes of laughter rang in my ears, each laugh echoing with newfound warmth, suggesting that perhaps we could navigate the complex labyrinth of our family dynamics together. "Pass the gravy, will you, Mia?" Emily, my cousin, called out, plucking at my attention with an inviting sincerity I had longed to experience. The way her tone softened with genuine respect unveiled the first inklings of change. "I hear Navy cooks whip up pretty mean meals." I couldn't help but smile as I took the gravy jug, angling it toward her plate. "Trust me, Em, one main goal of a Navy cook is to make people appreciate a good home-cooked meal. The menu often consists of ready-to-eat meals. That way you never have to sacrifice morale. It can be quite the adventure." My half-hearted attempt at light-hearted banter rekindled laughter, the air buzzing with familial resilience. As we maneuvered through our plates of roasted turkey and savory stuffing, I could sense the subtle yet steady transformation in the conversations around the table. My parents exchanged cautious glances, and I could feel their attentive presence on me, as if they were holding their breaths to see how I would react next. It wasn't just about my words anymore. It was about a shared experience that mattered to all of us. Unfazed, I allowed my words to weave between our shared stories of near misses. There was a palpable understanding that life had its own unpredictable rhythm. "You know, you don't have to be in the Navy to learn resilience," I remarked, glancing toward my brother Luke. "Every one of you is fighting battles of your own. Studies, jobs, those aren't easy either. Every hurdle is an opportunity to grow stronger. Isn't that right?" "I guess so," he admitted, a guilty smile flickering across his face, and it spawned a chain reaction. Heads nodded, eyes twinkled with recognition, as they contemplated the truth embedded in my words. "Much like those brutal training days at boot camp," I continued, biting into a piece of pumpkin pie. "We discover differently shaped scars and celebrate how far we've come. Many gains incurred in the process of learning who we are." As dessert graced the table, the weight of the evening's previous tension felt as if it would dissipate into thin air, as if all of us had made some unwritten pact, a pact to respect each other's places. The flickering candlelight cast soft shadows, reflecting not only our bond's imperfections, but also the beauty that can emerge through vulnerability. Luke leaned toward me, a mischievous glimmer sparkling in his eyes. "So, if we can survive turkey with you as our chef, does that mean we're practically Navy SEALs?" His remark punctured the previous ambiance, delivering a much-needed wave of laughter that spilled over the room. Aunt Diane attempted to stifle her chuckles, but failed as she rolled her eyes playfully. "More like culinary recruits on a first mission," I agreed, feeling a rising tide of affection for my family's spirit of humor. Shielded by the laughter, the air gradually filled with a sense of shared camaraderie, and I began to realize that we were indeed building bridges upon the foundation of respect. The conversation rippled forward, with each cousin vying to recount their endeavors, their hopes, and their fears, something I hadn't expected to be so heartfelt after the brooding undertones of previous gatherings. It was a newfound space where voices soared and laughter intermingled seamlessly with moments of reflection. With every story exchanged, I glimpsed the glimmer of acceptance, like tiny lanterns flickering through a darkened landscape. Then came the pivotal moment. As we sat together in this warmth, my father's voice cut through the merriment, settling softly on the hushed audience. The way he pronounced my name bore a gravity that commanded attention. "Mia, I want to apologize," he said, an air of humility weaving through his tone. "I've been too dismissive of your choices, and while I've crafted a narrative in my mind about right and wrong, I realize I didn't ever consider what you genuinely wanted." All eyes shifted to him, the awkward silence that followed amplifying the tension as I processed his words. He continued, a bit shakier. What I've wanted for you comes from love, but maybe I've cloistered you in fear rather than empowering you to take flight. You deserve the chance to fulfill your dreams, no matter how foreign they may seem. The gravity of that admission shifted the dynamic of the room, and for the first time, I could feel the freezing currents that had long defined our family begin to thaw. I held his gaze, staying composed despite the surge of warmth that rushed through my body. Thank you, Dad. It means more than you know to hear you say that. But remember, it's also my journey. Each choice I make has molded me. We're all on our paths, learning to navigate the unknown. A tear wove its way down his cheek, reflecting the vulnerability that pressed into our lives anew. In that moment, I felt the birth of understanding blossom, and perhaps grappling fear was turning to an acceptance of reality, not just for me, but for him too. My mother, noticing the shift, chimed in softly. I've been afraid too, Mia. You're my little girl, and it frightens me to see you take on such a risk, but I'm starting to appreciate your strength even if it took me a while to see it. There it was. Recognition nestled within a deeper level of honesty that ignited something in my heart. I watched in awe as the family dynamics expanded to blossom in front of our eyes, new seeds of respect lodged in our lives. Aunt Diane, her smile thawing considerably, leaned forward, as if earning a new perspective from our discussion. You know, Mia, it takes guts to do what you're doing. Perhaps I underestimated your strength and what that might mean for all of us. You've sparked something within this family. Her voice held a sincerity that had once been absent during our interactions, and her acknowledgement struck a chord deep inside. Maybe, I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. We all just need to share our journeys. Figuring it out together will help us see each other differently. In that moment, the barriers slowly crumbled around us. The discourse shifted from judgment to collaboration, entangled with understanding and affection. Each round of dialogue surged with the essence of reconciliation, redeeming the infringements of silence and misunderstanding that had accumulated over time. Soon, the conversations wrapped around our vulnerabilities, speaking out about fears, disappointments, and joys, new threads of connection sewn into existence. It was a surreal mix of laughter and reflection unfolding within our family, the palpable energy infusing the atmosphere with warmth. As we gathered around the fireplace afterward, a flickering golden glow cast dancing shadows that hinted at the possibilities ahead. I felt a sense of liberation surge through me, untying knots that had held my heart captive for far too long. I was no longer an outsider. I belonged, even amid the doubts and complexity that once dominated our familial narrative. In that transformative moment, the void created by conflicting visions narrowed like the grip of a captain steering their ship toward tranquil waters. I could see my father share knowing glances with my mother, who in turn caught my eye, her smile radiant with unspoken affection. The night unfolded with renewed sentiment, showcasing the soft resolutions that knitted us closer. As the flames danced and flickered, I caught fragments of laughter intermingled with the gentle crackling of wood. It became a living heartbeat of our cherished familial bonds. I reclined deeper into the embrace of that warmth, allowing the conversations to cradle my heart in a manner that felt almost mystical. It was an evening of evolution, a recognition that the waves of love could wash over our differences. Each voice captured in overlapping stories held a truth waiting to be uncovered. That being a family meant finding the courage to acknowledge our weaknesses while standing together in shared resilience. And amid all of it, as we exchanged laughter and words of understanding, the night glimmered with the promise of healing, rebirth, and self-discovery. I was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, firm in my commitment to authenticity and growth. No matter the storms we faced in the future, I knew we had begun to navigate together, even if it meant trusting one another to remain steadfast amid the tumultuous seas of expectations. Tomorrow may bring new challenges, and I knew that as a Navy officer, I would stand ready to serve my family and myself with the same courage I applied every day in the line of duty. As I wrapped my arms around the vitality of this moment, I felt that for the first time, I truly belonged. Now, let's proceed to Block 5, the dramatic revelation. The fire crackled softly, its warmth enveloping us like a comforting embrace as I settled deeper into the shared moment with my family. Laughter intermingled with gentle conversation, creating a delightful tapestry of belonging that I hadn't fully understood until now. Yet amidst this newfound connection, a lingering thought teased the edges of my mind. I had something significant to reveal, a truth that could risk unraveling the delicate progress we had made. I took a moment to breathe, letting the flickering shadows dance across my father's face, tracing the lines etched by years of worry and disappointment. This was my moment. The piece of recognition I craved had transformed from a far-off dream into a potential reality. I glanced at my family, the warmth of the fire illuminating their faces, and felt a mixture of determination and trepidation ripple through my core. It was time to shed the last layers of doubt and unveil the truth of what I had achieved. "Can I have your attention, please?" I asked, my heart racing a little as I stood, the soft sounds of conversation dwindling to a hush. My voice, though steady, resonated with a weight that reflected the gravity of what I was about to share. "There's something I've wanted to tell you all." The flickering flames crackled as if sharing in my anticipation, and I could feel the collective gaze of my family resting upon me, the room suddenly charged with expectation. "I know we've had some hard conversations tonight, and I'm grateful for every moment of understanding that's emerged," I began, my pulse quickening. "But there's an aspect of my military service that I've kept to myself, something I've been proud of, but never had the courage to fully share, not because I was ashamed, but because I felt like you might not understand." As I glanced around the circle of loved ones, I saw glimmers of support mingled with curiosity reflected in their eyes. They leaned in closer, eager to absorb the weight of my words and the story that would unfold before them. I'm not just a Navy recruit. I've achieved something greater than just being part of the military. This past year, I completed my training and was promoted to Chief Petty Officer. A collective gasp sliced through the silence, and for a moment, I could feel disbelief wash over my family like a wave. My father's face registered shock, his mouth slightly agape as he tried to process the enormity of what I had just revealed. "Yes, a CPO," I confirmed, smiling to myself, feeling as if a tether that had long bound me in silence had finally been severed. I earned the rank that reflects not just my commitment to the Navy, but also the leadership and responsibility I embrace every day. It wasn't an easy path, but I navigated it through blood, sweat, and countless obstacles. This isn't just a job to me, it's my life, my calling. And I want you to see that honor reflected in my service. It was a risky plunge into the depths of vulnerability, but with each word spoken, a sense of empowerment surged forth as I watched a metamorphosis take shape within my family's expressions. Hope, respect, understanding. My mother's eyes widened as she quietly absorbed the realization of my journey, and my brother's admiration blossomed in his features, a look that had long been absent from his demeanor. My father's mouth, which had once contorted into forms of ridicule, now shifted into a frown that seemed more introspective. "Chief Petty Officer?" he echoed, his gaze piercing through the fabric of my resolve. His voice, trembling slightly, took on a different tone, one that suggested he was reevaluating every assumption he'd held about my career. "Yeah, Dad," I said, the tremor in my voice now undercut with an underlying steadiness. "CPO isn't just about rank. It's about taking charge, guiding others, and making decisions that can affect entire teams. It's a mantle of responsibility I wear with pride. I hope that my acceptance of it will change how we see each other in this family. With that, I could see everyone digesting the depth of my revelation. My Aunt Diane shifted in her seat, the weight of the acknowledgement settling onto her conscience as she started connecting the dots. "So, that's why you've been so committed," she said in a tentative voice, glancing up at my father. "It all makes sense now. The Navy runs deep," I added, keenly aware of how our familial ties now danced in harmony with my personal journey. "And every choice I've made stems from this understanding that you have to embrace challenges, face fear head-on, and rise above. I didn't want to distance myself from you, but rather inspire understanding." My voice rung true within the spaces between us, illuminating the importance of acceptance, not just of my choices, but of our shared journey. I could feel my mother's arm reach out to my father, squeezing his hand with reassurance. The flicker of doubt in my father's expression faltered, replaced with intrigue and care as the air thickened with unspoken questions. "You never mentioned it, Mia," he murmured softly, the disbelief in his voice now tempered by a hint of pride. "Why didn't you? Did you think we wouldn't approve?" "It was never about approval. It was about finding a way to share my world with you gradually," I replied, the nervous knots in my stomach unraveling, slowly replaced by the conviction that every piece of my journey had led us to this particular moment. I feared that you would still see me as just a girl in a uniform, rather than acknowledging the responsibilities and leadership I've embraced. I wanted you to know I'm strong enough to earn pride, not just as your daughter, but as a soldier. Silence settled again, but this time it was rich with contemplation. After a few moments of quiet reflection, my father cleared his throat, visibly shaken. I didn't know you felt that way," he admitted, vulnerability creeping into his tone. "I have underestimated you, my daughter, and your strength. A chief petty officer should be honored. I should have recognized that before." A rush of emotions surged within me, pulling beneath the surface of incredulity and ambition, building upon an understanding of not only my journey, but also my father's own struggles to reconcile his expectations with the life I had chosen. "It's okay," I reassured him gently. "Change takes time for all of us. What matters is that we're moving forward." My heart soared as I absorbed the pulse of acceptance settling warmly among us. Here we were, gathered around the fire, not just as a family, but as individuals discovering a way to honor each other's journeys more profoundly than ever before. "I think this is incredible," Luke chimed, his voice woven with awe. "Mia, you're leading. That's impressive. I can only imagine how difficult the training must have been." "It was challenging, yes," I confirmed, my expression reflecting a handful of memories and experiences embedded in every ounce of my achievements. "But it's in those struggles that I discovered my strength. I want you to know about that strength and know that I'm capable of reshaping our family's narrative." The warmth in the room was electric, and as I looked around, I recognized traces of wonder sparking in their eyes. We were navigating toward clarity together, the light illuminating our hidden truths. "I think we all have the power to reframe our stories," Aunt Diane added, her tone softened by genuine reflection. "Mia, through your service, you inspire us all to embrace the challenges life throws at us and to not just shine away from them." In that moment, I felt the weight of my dignity rising like a tide, an unyielding promise that this wasn't merely about me anymore. It was about our family learning how to stand together as champions of acceptance, embracing growth over traditional expectations. The fire's flicker glowed brighter, reflecting the warmth of our conversations, illuminating hope, memories, and reflections. The long shadow of the past seemed to fade as I watched my father nod slowly, absorbing not just my words, but creating a bridge across the divides that had formed through miscommunication and misunderstanding. "I'm proud of you, Mia," he finally said, his voice imbued with a depth that resonated deeply within me. And I'm committed to learning and understanding as we go. For the first time, I saw him look at me not as the daughter who had failed to meet his expectations, but as an equal, as a soldier deserving of honor and respect. My heart swelled, opening like a flower reaching for the sun after a long winter. In that shared moment of acceptance, I felt the recognition of my journey ripple through each family member, resonating with purpose, expanding our connection beyond the layers of doubt that had once clouded our interactions. We spent the rest of the evening sharing stories of resilience, peppered with shared laughter and moments of reflection. The warmth of the fire became a symbol of our unified spirit, a space where understanding bloomed and familial bonds were woven stronger than ever before. With the crackle of the embers and laughter ringing through the room, I knew that, as a Navy officer and as a daughter, I had finally begun to bridge the distance within our family, creating a unity born from acceptance, shared understanding, and mutual respect. As the stars twinkled outside, twinkling like promises of new beginnings, I felt unshakably certain that our family's journey still had many chapters ahead, waiting for us to write them together. And so, with the dawning realization that I belonged, I stood ready to embrace the future, knowing that the strength I sought had always resided within us all, just waiting for the right moment to flourish. With that, the story captures the emotional convergence of Mia's military journey with the reconnection of family bonds. If you require any adjustments or further developments in the narrative, please let me know. As the entertaining ebbs and flows of the evening carried us forward, I couldn't shake the growing tension, a subtle undercurrent that still radiated from Aunt Lisa. While my father had begun to embrace the broader picture of acceptance, there lingered an echo of discord nestled within the folds of our family gathering. The warmth of our newfound understanding was undeniably present, but shadows of skepticism still meandered through the conversation like ghostly specters, refusing to flee into the night. Aunt Lisa, brave yet apprehensive, held her silence for a few moments longer. I could almost see her mind working, judging her words carefully, calculating how her thoughts could either fortify or fracture our family. Finally, she broke through the tension. "Mia, I appreciate everything you've accomplished, but as a family with military ties, we just can't throw out all the protocols and traditions that have served us well. There's honor in maintaining a path of discipline." Her voice echoed with authority, solidifying her concern while shadowing the surrounding room. My heart tightened. I understood her feelings, a need for structure and tradition that had kept our family buoyant and cohesive through uncertain times. Yet I also recognized that my journey had forged a new reality, one that called for alliances to new perspectives beyond the rigidity of former expectations. "I hear you, Lisa. I get it," I began, choosing my words carefully, hoping to forge a bridge where doubt had prevailed. "But the military I serve today is different. It embraces evolution. We still honor discipline, but we also embrace what it means to be inclusive, to understand that our ranks are filled with individuals from varied backgrounds and experiences who enrich our mission. Respect for tradition is not about holding on to antiquated ideas," she pressed, her brow furrowing with frustration, intertwining her fingers in a defensive gesture that illustrated her fear. "It's about preserving our identity, the very essence of what makes a military family what it is. And if we start bending those rules for individual journeys—" "But these journeys define who we are as a family, Lisa," I interjected gently, speaking as both a daughter and a soldier. "We need to recognize that growth accompanies change. Some of the greatest leaders in our Navy today are the ones who pushed boundaries and redefined what success looks like." A silence fell over the room, weighing heavily as every family member absorbed the exchange. I could see the sparks of understanding dancing in my father's eyes, while my mother's grip on her chair tightened as if she were attempting to anchor the very essence of our familial bonds. My brother, caught between youthful optimism and palpable tension, looked back and forth between Aunt Lisa and me, feeling the immensity of the moment. "Maybe we should all take a step back for a moment," my mother suggested, her voice calm yet firm, like a soothing tide washing over distressed shores. "This is an opportunity for us to share our individual perspectives without feeling threatened. Lisa, could we try to express what we value in our family and the military together?" Aunt Lisa's chin quivered slightly as she considered this, the lines of her brows relaxing just enough to reveal a flicker of vulnerability. "I deserve the chance to understand what you've experienced, Mia. I recognize I may not always see what you see," she conceded, admitting that navigating these discussions was a mutual responsibility. "But it's hard," she continued, her voice subdued but earnest. "It's frightening to think that traditions might fade with time, and being a military family might lose some of its essence because of it. There's strength in adapting while still holding on to our roots," my father added gently, now stepping into the role of mediator. "We can support Mia's achievements while finding ways to connect the past with our present. Maybe it's not about losing those values, but about redefining them together." Aunt Lisa nodded slowly, a sign of acknowledgement, yet uncertainty still clouded her features. I felt a surge of determination rise within me. This was a moment I needed to seize, to share the very core of my journey and the lessons I'd learned from it. "Tradition is important to me, too," I said deliberately, honing in on the common ground buried beneath our apprehensions. "When I think of my time in the Navy, all the sacrifices I've made, I can see how they align closely with our family's values. I don't want to disregard our history or the honor it embodies, but instead, I seek to honor that while also uplifting what we've learned through evolving experiences." Her defenses visibly faltered as I laid my heart bare before them, revealing how intertwined my journeys in the military were with our collective narrative, our family history. This connection might be fragile, but I felt that we were beginning to draw lines back together, stitching old wounds with new understanding. "I understand that embracing different experiences requires flexibility," my mother chimed in. "Mia's service as a Navy officer doesn't mean she's abandoning our values. It means she's elevating them. It's showcasing that being part of a family doesn't mean we must stay static in time." Just then, a voice chimed in from the back of the room, my brother Luke, whose youthful exuberance often injected levity into serious conversations. "What if we made this reunion a celebration of both family traditions and new journeys? Like a party where everyone gets to share what it means to them to be in this family?" His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and I found myself smiling at how honestly he saw through the complexities, offering a refreshing perspective on our discussions. Aunt Lisa appeared to consider this, brows furrowing thoughtfully. "That could work," she mused aloud. "What it means to belong, not just to the military family, but to our family. Sharing how these journeys have shaped us. It would be a good opportunity to remind ourselves what honor means in many forms." I caught my father's eye, shared momentum sparking between us. "Absolutely," I chimed back, eagerness rising in my heart. There's power in gathering stories, in amplifying voices that have often gone unheard. We have soldiers, family veterans, everyone who has a unique experience connected to our identity. Aunt Lisa nodded, her defenses gradually lowering against the tide of empathy and vision building within the room. "Okay then, how do we practically make this happen? What do we gather from all this? What do we need to share?" Excitement pooled in the center of the room as we began brainstorming ideas. Each family member began contributing thoughts about our reunion, from activities that encourage sharing experiences to the menu to serve traditional family recipes infused with flavors reminiscent of our Navy lives. Discussions circled, allowing all voices to contribute and evolve into a shared narrative. "I'd love to create a family tree that tells each of our stories," I suggested, picturing families participating and sharing pieces in an art space, sparking conversations and connections. And I could set up a photo wall highlighting our shared experiences, Luke added enthusiastically, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Hey, we could even have a military theme to blend our traditions into sharing new journeys. Definitely, my mom exclaimed, her eyes sparkling at the array of ideas unfolding. This was the very essence of the change we yearned for, the knitting together of past and future, tradition and modernity, in ways that resonated deeply with each family member. By the end of our discussions, Aunt Lisa had visibly softened, and a gentle smile broke through her earlier apprehensions. I think we all deserve the chance to celebrate where we've come from and where we're going, she said, her voice ringing with warmth. Mia, I'm realizing now how your journey as a Navy officer truly embodies our family's strength. You're not just a part of the Navy, you carry our family legacy with you. Maybe more than any of us, you're redefining what honor means today. My heart swelled with gratitude at her acknowledgement, an affirmation that deserved recognition. We had navigated turmoil, but anchored in newfound territory, rich with acceptance. As laughter and excitement filled the room, we began to exchange more stories, hopes, and wishes. The night felt alive, pulsing with the promise of connection. I allowed myself to bask in every shared moment, from the laughter echoing off the walls to the heartfelt conversations that unfurled. We may have started the evening with lingering doubts, yet as its depth expanded into understanding, we emerged fortified not only by our histories, but by the willingness to embrace transformation hand in hand. The warmth of the family fire illuminated not just our surroundings, but the path we were forging together, a reunion that could keep us attuned to both tradition and change in this complex tapestry we had woven. As I took stock of my surroundings, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me, a recognition of what it truly meant to belong and evolve as a family. These moments would anchor us into the days ahead, guiding us through uncharted territories as we worked to understand both our military roles and the identity we shared as a family unit. That night, enveloped by the glow of commitment and laughter, I felt certain our family could weather any storm, together, resilient, and united in love. The tender threads of connection had become reinforced, paving the way for new traditions to flourish, all while holding each family member's glimmering narrative close to our hearts. As the evening unraveled into a cascade of warm embraces and joyous chatter, I sat back, absorbing the sweet notes of laughter and the soft rustle of delicate conversations around the room. Each shared story seemed to leave a visible trail of hope in the air, shimmering brightly against the backdrop of moonlit windows. The echoes of appreciation and understanding woven through our discussions ignited a sense of purpose within me, echoing like a cadence in my heart. Lap by lap, our family was transforming, shedding the old burdens of doubt and stepping forward into possibilities. Alongside this evolution, a flicker of illumination arose, an acknowledgement of the strength gifted to me by my role as a Navy officer. I felt it deeply, how the values of service, honor, and commitment resonated not just within my duties, but also within the very framework of our family legacy. The sights before me, a slightly crumpled family photo displayed on the mantel, laughter spilling from beloved aunts, and even Aunt Lisa's newfound lightness, blended into a vibrant mural of collective resilience. You're not just part of the Navy, you carry our family legacy with you. Aunt Lisa's words echoed again, resonating deeply within me, embedding themselves among my future aspirations. I turned my attention to the large window, where the stars seemed to twinkle in synchrony with my thoughts, reflecting the tapestry of my experiences in the military. I had endured countless deployments, navigated through obligations that tested my strength, and yet, here I was in this moment, embracing the change while fortifying the bonds binding us as a family. It dawned on me then that our journeys in the Navy didn't merely chart a course for our individual paths. They interwove with everything we valued as a family. With a determined resolve, I cleared my throat, drawing attention to myself. "Hey everyone, can I have your attention for a moment?" Gradually, voices hushed, and every gaze turned toward me, a sea of family faces reflecting curiosity and warmth. "I can't express how grateful I am for all of you, especially tonight. This gathering means more to me than I can articulate," I continued, my heart swelling as emotions surged within me. "Like you all, I understand that change can be daunting, but tonight reassured me that our family strengthens through our willingness to adapt together." Sharing those stories lifted me, reminding me of the rich legacy embedded in each of our lives. A chorus of nods and murmurs backed my sentiment, facing shifts of warmth and connection from each family member. All of us have faced our share of challenges. We carry different perspectives that converge, forming what shapes us as a family. Both in the Navy and in life, our beliefs can evolve without losing touch with who we are. "Exactly," Uncle Joe chimed in, his voice laden with enthusiasm. "It's about embracing progression. We've inherited resilience from our military background, and that's enriched our family history." I smiled at him, fueled by the collective spirit of encouragement. We have the power to craft our heritage, blending tradition with modernity. It's up to each of us to breathe life into it, whether as a father, sister, aunt, or even as a Navy officer. And with all that said, I think we should celebrate our first reunion with a toast. "To our family!" shouted Luke enthusiastically, raising his glass high as laughter filled the room. "To family!" we echoed in unison, our voices rising in harmony. Glasses clinked, a beautiful sentiment that caught in the air as our resonance filled the corners of the room, a love rooted deeper than words could express. The celebration drifted into conversations that showcased both laughter and occasional tears, stories painting vivid portraits of our experiences, tragedies, and victories. Uncle Joe shared his favorite tale from deployments, regaling us with humorous recounts that left us gasping for breath from laughter. I found my thoughts drifting between the bonds we shared and the memories that had threaded us all closely together, reminding me of my very own journey of transformation. This was about far more than the service in the Navy or familial bonds. It was about overcoming adversity together and shaping something greater through acceptance. As the night progressed, I felt compelled to address how we might channel this lively atmosphere into the future that awaited us. We've acknowledged the importance of continuing this journey together, and I think we can set goals, I proposed, watching interest twinkle in the eyes of my family. Let's create a family mission that honors both our military roots and the future we aspire to build. How about we share our hopes for the direction we would like our family to head? "I think that's a brilliant idea," my mother agreed, her encouraging smile glowing brightly. Establishing a family mission will help us stay connected, even during times of change. It could help keep the heart of our family close. As they began voicing their various aspirations, everything from ensuring that future generations would uphold our family's values to emphasizing the importance of mentorship in our military journeys, a collective vision began to emerge. It struck me that we were intertwining our personal visions with our family's mission, nurturing growth together and mapping the future for those who would follow in our footsteps. Each person contributed, playing a crucial role, incorporating elements of our lives, values, and the intricacies that played into our narratives. In this embrace of forward motion, I felt an emotion welling deep within me. This act of interweaving our individual stories into a tapestry that illustrated our familial connections was powerful. It became something greater than just our individual journeys. As I listened to my family articulate their hopes alive in this setting, I felt profound gratitude that we could embrace one another with love and resilience. We had created an environment where growth and fulfillment flourished, each story and aspiration woven positively into our family's evolving narrative. Eventually, as evening turned toward the night, laughter blended into a lovely camaraderie, melting away lingering doubts and allowing joy to emerge anew. It was clear that, like the brightest stars in that vast night sky, our stories would shine, an amalgamation of both tradition and transformation, guiding us through our forthcoming ventures together. In the mirth-filled moments that followed, I felt an exhilarating sense of calm. Together, we carried both shared burdens and shared triumphs. Our conversations drifted effortlessly as we basked in the glow of unity and love. It inspired me. It renewed my vigor for the paths I would traverse as both a Navy officer and a member of this beautiful, multifaceted family. Finally, as the night drew to a close, I took one last glance around me, each face reflecting the strength of our gathering, the spirit of acceptance woven through shared stories of growth. And as I tucked its vivid warmth into my heart, I knew that our family's new mission was only just beginning. With my heart brimming over with gratitude and hope, I lay my head down for the night, with the certainty that, through shared understanding and love, we had charted out a unified course toward the horizon, where the promise of new beginnings awaited us all.